Hello and welcome back to the Stronghold. I'm the Magi and welcome to Midweek Magic, where I want you to grow your collection by winning 2 free Rare or Better ICRs each and every week. This week we are going to be brawling with a little added cascade thanks to the Maelstrom Nexus emblem, which states whenever you cast your first spell each turn, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card with converted mana cost less than that spell's. You may cast that card without paying its mana cost, then put the exile cards that weren't cast this way back into your library on the bottom. Sorry, it doesn't actually show the whole thing on the screen, and I had to remember the last part. Amazing. And speaking of amazing, I'm going to be really honest with you. If you have a Brawl deck that works for you and is fun, it's going to work for this event because casting free spells is generally just good. The only thing you really have to watch out for is interactive cards like removal, because you might get the opportunity to cast it and might not have an appropriate target for it, thus wasting your little bit of advantage and letting it swing back to your opponent. But not to worry, we've got lots of good options for you this week. But before we get into all of that, this whole Midweek Magic thing has become a bit of a tradition here at the Stronghold, and it all started with our crack team of researchers discovering that we were the only YouTube channel making consistent, proactive, and timely Midweek Magic coverage. And here we are years later, and it appears that we're still the only ones out there doing it for the budget community. So be sure to subscribe to the Planeswalker Stronghold so that we can be here for you every chance we get. Now, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, right. Believe it or not, this is one of those rare midweek magics where I don't recommend playing. You can play as many copies of this card in your deck as you want, cards like Heir Apparent, for the simple fact that these cards will not cascade into each other. So you've really got to build your deck around using it to cascade into something that is at least as good for you as another copy of the card itself, which can be difficult. So I tend to avoid that. It is an option of last resort. If you don't have anything else going for you, by all means, you can do this, but it's not going to be as effective as you might want it to be. And for those that are looking to get by with maybe little to no wildcard usage, don't forget the Big Dumb Green strategy can be paired in Cascade Brawl with any green commander. The basic idea of this deck is to use ramp in the early stages and then ramp into big dumb green creatures that smashy. Don't forget to watch your interactive pieces and don't leave yourself in a potentially bad situation where maybe you have to target your own creature with a negative effect or something like that. So just keep an eye on that, but you should be able to build this deck basically from your starter deck with little to no trouble. Now, for those of you out there that are looking to lean into this Cascade thing just a little bit more, we've got some great suggestions for you as well. Starting off, using the Discover mechanic introduced in Lost Caverns of Ixalan, kind of gets double duty here as it functions very similar to Cascade, so you can really maximize some card advantage here, often getting 2 or 3 triggers off of a single spell or otherwise drawn card. A 2 or 3 to 1 advantage over your opponent is going to get a lot done for you. In my opinion, the best combinations tend to be Boros and Izzet. I've built decks on both that you can find over on EtherHub. For those looking to make a little bit more of an investment in a deck, you might want to consider Laelia the Blade Reforged as a mono red commander, because she gets really big off the Cascade or Discover triggers. It's less than 10 wildcards for the whole deck, most of which are commons and uncommons, and most of the deck is mountains. But the undisputed king of Cascade Brawl has to be Emoti, Celebrant of the Bounty, a 5-mana 3/1 Naga Druid. What makes this so relevant to this particular niche format is not only does it have Cascade, but it also gives other spells you cast with a converted mana cost of 6 or greater Cascade as well. So there's two different ways to build this deck. And yes, both can be done pretty cheaply when it comes to wildcards. The first is to apply a variation of the Big Dumb Green deck, where your lower casting cost spells are basically ramp to help you get up to that 5 for Emoti, and then beyond for those higher casting cost spells. And of course, everything else in the deck is a casting cost of 6 or greater, allowing you to hit spell after spell after spell. Really solid overall construction. The one downside of this deck that you see from time to time is they cast a big spell and then they cascade into a small ramp spell that they no longer need to be contributing to their board. So consider maybe putting a handful of 4 or 5 drops in the deck so that you're not just hitting a Llanowar Elf off of your 6 mana monster. And of course, spells that have haste are of particularly high value, and certainly any big dumb creature with some form of evasion, be it trample or flying or whatever, really helps you get the job done. The second version of the Emoti deck, and perhaps in my opinion the more fun version, relies on the 4 mana enchantment Monstrous Vortex, which states whenever you cast a creature spell with power 5 or greater, discover X, where X is that spell's mana value. So basically, you cut out a lot of the small ramp stuff in the deck. You just race up to 4 mana as best you can, cast Monstrous Vortex, then the next turn, cast Emoti for 5, and you just start putting cards into play. Because Monstrous Vortex discovers, and that new spell will cause it to trigger again and discover again. So you just get card after card after card, almost putting your entire deck into play. Really gets very interesting. You can still ramp in this, but instead of playing cards like Llanowar Elves, you want to play ramp components that can be played early on a lower mana option, but for technical reasons have higher mana converted costs for the spell. Things like split cards for doors, things that have the prototype mechanic. And of course, don't forget to consider any adventure or omen cards that you have in your collection. And finally, one last card to consider investing in for this week's event is Craterhoof Behemoth, a tremendous 8 mana 5/5 beast, mythic rare. It does have haste, and when this creature enters, creatures you control gain trample and get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of creatures you control. This just makes for a nice Alpha Strike finish, especially if you're able to hit this on your second or third Cascade trigger set. Really makes for a nice finisher. And of course, this also counts as a finisher in a mono green Elves deck. And in that deck, you really want 3 finishers. And this puts you a nice solid step towards that. There's several others if you check out that deck tech to consider as well. But they don't necessarily fit in this deck as well as Behemoth. So consider it. I know it's a mythic, but it's one of those cards that you won't just use in this deck. It has standard applications and things like that as well. And generally is one of the more consistently played cards on Arena, even when it was just relegated to Historic. And hey, just in case you didn't catch all that, Matt would like you to know that the deck list that we discussed in this video is going to have a link down in the doobly-doo to take you over to EtherHub, along with a link to any other alternative lists that you might wish to consider. He only asked that you give it a little thumbs up when you're over there checking out the deck list. And I plan on live playing this event on Wednesday at 11 a.m. over on my Twitch channel. So definitely stop in and check it out. Because the Stronghold is so much more than just a YouTube channel, and you can find links to all of our other social media outlets in our profile. Because at the end of the day, we're all budget players. And as a community, we're stronger together. So like, comment, subscribe, follow, do all those things to show a little love. It's appreciated more than you know.